So picture this. It's 1947. Two brand new nations are born from the ashes of an old empire. And what's one of their very first acts? They go to war. And the prize is this land of just staggering beauty, a place that would become the symbol of their rivalry forever, Kashmir. Let's get into how this paradise became a battleground.
Right, so the year is 1947. The British are gone, and they've left behind a subcontinent that's been violently split into India and Pakistan. As the dust from that massive, painful partition begins to settle, hundreds of these little kingdoms, these princely states, have to make a choice about their future. And none, absolutely none, is more prized or in a tougher spot than Kashmir.
You know, people have called Kashmir paradise on earth, and when you see it, you get why. Snow-capped mountains, these shimmering lakes, lush green valleys, it's just stunning. But underneath all that beauty, it was basically a political powder keg, and the fuse was about to be lit.
Kashmir's situation was, well, it was really unique. It wasn't technically part of British India. It was ruled by its own monarch, Maharaja Hari Singh. And here is the absolute crux of the issue. He was a Hindu ruler, but the vast majority of his people were Muslim. That imbalance right there was the heart of the entire crisis.
So the Maharaja is facing this monumental decision. I mean, what do? He could join the secular state of India, which kind of aligned with his own faith, or he could join the new Muslim-majority Pakistan, which reflected the faith of most of his population. But you know what he really wanted? He dreamed of a third option, a totally independent Kashmir. The problem was, both India and Pakistan saw Kashmir as strategically vital. Neither one was going to just let it go.
Well, that dream of an independent Kashmir, it was about to be completely shattered, and in just a matter of days. An event was about to unfold that would force his hand and light the fuse for the very first war between these two young nations.
In late October of '47, thousands of armed Pashtun tribesmen came storming across the border from Pakistan. Now, make no mistake, this was not a spontaneous raid. This was a coordinated invasion, codenamed Operation Gulmarg. And it was pretty clear it had support from inside the Pakistani army with one clear objective: capture Kashmir's capital, Srinagar.
And things just escalated with breathtaking speed. October 22nd, the invasion starts. By the 24th, just 2 days later, the Maharaja's army is crumbling. He sends this desperate plea to India for military help. But India's answer came with a condition, a big one. We'll help, but only if Kashmir officially joins the Indian Union. So with his back against the wall and his kingdom about to fall, on October 26th, Maharaja Hari Singh signed on the dotted line. He signed this crucial legal document, the Instrument of Accession. And just like that, Kashmir officially became part of India. The Indian government now had control of its defense, its foreign policy, the whole shebang. The choice was made. So, the paperwork is signed. Now what? Well, India's response was immediate and frankly, incredibly dramatic. What followed was this desperate race against time to save Srinagar, and it marked the official start of the First Kashmir War. I mean, we're talking just hours after the accession was signed, Indian transport planes were in the sky. As the sun came up, the first troops landed at the Srinagar airfield. They were literally rushing straight from the tarmac and into battle to stop the invaders' advance. And the odds they were up against? Just staggering. Near a village called Badgam, a small company of Indian soldiers found themselves facing an enemy force that outnumbered them 7-1. Their leader was a man named Major Somnath Sharma. Major Sharma and his men knew their job was simple, but critical: hold the line and protect that airfield no matter what. They fought with incredible heroism, but Sharma was ultimately killed in action. But his sacrifice, his bravery, it bought just enough time. It slowed the invaders down long enough for reinforcements to arrive, and it saved Srinagar. For that, he was posthumously awarded India's highest military honor. You know, from the very beginning, you had two totally different stories about what was happening. India saw it as a clear-cut, planned invasion backed by Pakistan. Pakistan, on the other hand, denied any official involvement. They framed it as a spontaneous rebellion by the Kashmiri people against an oppressive ruler. Of course, that story got a lot harder to sell when regular units of the Pakistani army openly joined the fighting. With both national armies now officially involved, the fight exploded into a full-scale war. It spread all across Kashmir's treacherous terrain, and eventually just ground to a brutal stalemate that would drag the rest of the world into the picture. For over a year, Indian and Pakistani forces fought it out in some of the most difficult terrain you can imagine. We're talking brutal battles in freezing cold for control of key towns. Villages would change hands over and over again. Neither side could land that decisive knockout blow.
So, with the war just locked in this costly, bloody stalemate, India's Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, decides to take the issue to the newly formed United Nations. He was hoping for some international mediation to finally end the crisis.
The UN Security Council came up with what seemed like a logical three-step plan. First, an immediate ceasefire. Everybody stopped shooting. Second, Pakistan had to withdraw all of its forces from the region, and only then, as the third and final step, a plebiscite would be held, a vote for the people of Kashmir to decide their own future. But here's the thing. That final, crucial step, it never happened. Why? Because the second step never did.
And that failure to withdraw, that became the intractable problem. With the main issue completely unresolved, the war just stopped. It didn't really end, it just stopped, leaving this deep and lasting scar right across the land.
On January 1st, 1949, a UN-brokered ceasefire finally took effect. The line where the fighting stopped became the de facto border, later known as the line of control. So, India was left in control of about two-thirds of the state, including the famous Kashmir Valley, Jammu, and Ladakh. Pakistan controlled the other third, which it calls Azad Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan.
But beyond all the maps and military strategy, there's the human cost, and it was profound. This wasn't just about territory. The war took thousands of lives and literally carved a line through villages and through families. Brothers found themselves on one side, sisters on the other, divided by a border that hadn't even existed just months before.
So at the end of the day, neither side could really claim a victory. For India, it was a battle to defend its new sovereignty. For Pakistan, it was a fight to complete its vision of a Muslim homeland. The war ended, but what it really did was sow the seeds for decades of distrust and future conflicts.
And this really leaves us with a profound question, doesn't it? When the guns finally fell silent, that ceasefire line divided so much more than just territory. It became a wound in the heart of the subcontinent. The echoes of this very first war, they continue to haunt the valleys of Kashmir to this day, reminding us that some lines on a map aren't drawn in ink, but in blood and sorrow.